म्हणजे A very good afternoon, everyone. We will just wait for more few minutes and after that we will start our session. A very good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Institution Innovation Council at Symbiosis Center for Distance Learning, I, Dr. Sunita Nikam, welcome you all and thank you for joining us today for this special session celebrating the 4th anniversary of National Education Policy NEP 2020. This session aims to provide a comprehensive understanding of NEP, its impact on educational landscape and the future direction it sets for our education system. And it's my great pleasure to introduce our esteemed speaker, Professor Dr. Uttara Deolankar. Dr. Uttara is a distinguished academic with over 26 years of experience in the field of education. She holds a doctoral degree in educational technology from SNDT University, Mumbai. Her expertise encompasses educational technology, psychological counseling, instructional design, educational administrations, and soft skill. Dr. Uttara has made significant contribution through her research with 25 published and presented papers at national and international levels and has conducted numerous workshops on educational technology. Her role as a subject language expert at Central Institute of Education Technology and her life membership with Counselor Council of India highlights her deep commitment to educational advancement. We are truly honored to have her with us today to share her valuable insights and facilitate an engaging discussion on national education policy. So with further ado, please join me in welcoming Dr. Uttara. Here, there is one small announcement that we will be taking all your questions at the end of the session. I can unmute all participants at that time. Currently, you all are muted from the admin part. So now the stage is yours, Dr. Uttara.
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you, Dr. Sunita, for all those lovely words. And with this, it is a great pleasure to again say that we have started with the implementation of National Education Policy 2020, a long awaited, and everyone were longing for the policy to be implemented. And it has come out with so many excellent features that certainly it is going to be devoted for quality of education. And certainly, on to this note, here I am, where we'll be discussing the insights and reflections onto National Education Policy 2020. So, definitely on to this part. As Dr. Sunita has introduced me, so I'll skip this slide. And a small little activity for all of you all here is here's today's scenario, exactly the educational scenario. So we'll just speak about the first picture. There are many lessons which are taught throughout schools and nowadays even the higher educational colleges where simple questions are asked like these which are there onto the screen. How to remove a puncture in a tire? Yes, such simple questions are asked. Does everyone agree with these questions? Or maybe a very simple thing as what is seed to tree, the cycle which is taught in the schools. Does everyone agree with this? Yes, your active participations will be really appreciated. Yes. So certainly, yes, I can see one chat here also. So definitely such questions are asked. And in today's world, we are very proud to say that the educational methodology or the way in which these different concepts are taught are definitely very exciting. They are included with a lot of technology base also where the participants are very comfortable to understand such type of concepts. That is there. We cannot deny this. But have you ever thought of these questions? So it is removal of a puncture of a tire where everyone understands, yes, it has to be immersed in water, then the bubbles are seen, etc., etc. But such type of conditions and permutations, have they been taught that if it is in a desert situation, then what will happen? That is going to add another depth to the quality of education, which was totally absent up till now. Or even if it is the seed to tree cycle, then why not the hibiscus plant, where students will come up and ask why there are no fruits to a hibiscus plant. So what happens to a hibiscus plant when the hibiscus plant is about going to having more trees, more shrubs around the vicinity? Then why there are no fruits, why there are no seeds? So this is what is going to add to the quality of teaching. Yes, we do agree that up till now we have been using a lot of technology, a lot of e-learning packages which are engaging. But these are a few examples which are highlighted into our educational policy, which is going to add into quality in education. So on this note, let us discuss about the National Policy of Education 2020, also called as NEP 2020. So what did the earlier policies say about? Certainly, they focused a lot onto access and onto equity, which were the cup of tea at that time. A lot of importance onto issues to access, universalization. Everyone should be able to access in educational opportunities, know where from which part of the country the students are coming from. It might be the most rural parts, it can be the tribal parts, or it can also be the urban parts, the slum urban parts also. So access and equity to education were given a lot of importance when definitely when the policies were formulated right way behind in 86. Then it was modified with a minor little changes in 1992. And this policy, which is now formulated in 2020, it deals with all these points. It doesn't mean that whenever we come up with a new policy, the older things are just totally lost in and we keep on adding the newer things. No, it is not the point here. But in 2020, we have considered with the earlier points, and the major development since the last policy happened, it was in 86, way back in 86, with little bit of minor modifications which happened in 1992, which were certainly the right to education, okay, which happened to be a free compulsory education act. Yes, it was an act where no one should be left without education, should not be under, should not, everyone should be under the umbrella of education. It was an act which passed, which is called as the 2009 Act, which laid upon legal underpinning for achieving universal elementary education. So everyone between 6 to 14 years of age group were not supposed to be working somewhere in the business houses, corporate houses, or anywhere else, but they had to be put under the umbrella of education. So keeping all these points, which were those issues of access and equity, secondly, the right to education, which happened to be free as well as compulsory, a very important clause here. All these were brought into light, into focus with considerable, with the focus of our topic of interest of today, that is NEP 2020. So what are the major principles of NEP 2020? As you can see here, the screen overcrowded with certain points. So we start with a very important part, which happens to be the holistic development. It doesn't mean that whenever a child is put into the school, maybe in the pre-primary school, doesn't mean that only and only academic development, but a development which encompasses all the spheres. It might be moral development, it might be the emotional or psychological development of the child, with a lot of emphasis on to physical development. And that is why you can see free meals are being distributed in the school-going students, which is essentially a part and parcel of good physical development, which keeps in focus the nutritional status of the children. With that, a lot of importance of social development also. So it is like a holistic development where sensitizing of teachers as well as parents is done so that the overall development of the child is seen. Secondly, a lot of importance onto literacy and numeracy, and that too by grade 3. So when the child reaches the 3rd standard, the 3 R's should be prominently seen according to NEP 2020. They are reading, writing, and the basic arithmetic functions. So foundational literacy and numeracy, very much important, one of the principles of NEP 2020. And definitely when the child goes on to the higher levels of education, the learners should have an ability to choose in their own trajectories, that is their own journeys, of which program they will be learning, what are their interests, likes, inclinations, what are their talents, and accordingly form their own educational program. Now for this, a very important point which is said is there are no hard separations, as what we had seen up till now, that a person who takes in admission for the science subjects was not supposed to be even looking at what happens in arts or commerce subjects. So it is no hard separations. This policy is supposed to be the most flexible policy, leaving off all the rigidity which we found up till now in our educational system. It has no hard separations between arts and sciences, between curricular and extracurricular activities, between vocational and academic streams. And therefore, one tries to eliminate the harmful hierarchies among the learning perspectives. Now, whenever it is said that a layman person says that science is supposed to be a much more challenging field as compared to the crafts or arts field, humanities as such. So according to one of those principles of NEP 2020, it is no hard separations. And for achieving no hard separations, It is a multidisciplinary and a holistic educational practices that correlates it to science, social sciences, arts, humanities, also sports, and therefore a very important word which happens to be a part and parcel of NEP 2020. It is certainly the multidisciplinary approach. The multidisciplinary world in order to ensure the unity and integrity of all knowledge pieces. It is ultimately said even in our Sanskrit shlokas, where we say that the whole knowledge is like a whole big zero, where one starts from one point and again ends up with his journey with the education to the same point. So it is not so that arts is not interrelated with science or science not related with other subjects, but it is all related, and therefore a multidisciplinary approach of very important points which are seen as principles of NEP 2020. I repeated, holistic development with the foundational literacy and numeracy, which should be found in the school-going students, especially the elementary ages, followed by the making aware of the students that they are the part and parcel of their own journeys of education, of becoming oneself more professional, and therefore there shouldn't be any hard separations leading to multidisciplinary and holistic educational base of knowledge. Further on to this note, when there are principles laid out, oops, the next slide is what are exactly the beneficial effects of NEP. How it is said to be a flexible, beneficial part of the educational system, and therefore the National Education Policy 2020 brings forth several positive impacts. Which are those? The first thing is that it is having a lot of flexibility. The exit policies are there, which can be planned according to the choice, according to the interest, entry and exit policies. It gives a lot of emphasis on to skill development, a very important part. So up till now, we had a lot of implementation onto the theoretical subjects which were taught from elementary to the higher levels to the university level courses, say masters courses, where emphasis was given on teaching of the theoretical subjects, and with that we also had in practicals, where the professors used to demonstrate a certain piece of knowledge. But now one step ahead is the skilling, which is called as the students should be knowing the to-do activities. So it is an incorporation of 3 R's as what we said earlier, which were arithmetic, languages, as well as the science part. Okay, reading, writing, and arithmetic. So apart from the 3 R's, it is the 3 H's which are now said to be a part and parcel of educational system. Which are the 3 H's? It is head, heart, and hands. Certainly when hands are incorporated, it is the skilling, the skill development is given a lot of emphasis, and that is exactly the cup of tea of NEP 2020. With that, as what we discussed earlier also, the integration of technology, a lot of importance as we come out from the pandemic stage, where suddenly in a day or so, it so happened that the face-to-face classes were just halted. There was a big full stop there. And the whole world changed into the e-learning part. The lectures happened with a lot of technology in force, and therefore it was integration of technology, which is now also given a lot of importance. Even some of the courses which are nowadays taught through face-to-face mode, some of the concepts are taught through the use of digitalization, digital machines, with e-learning packages, with internet. So it is integration of technology and a multidisciplinary approach, where you cannot say that science would be only for a few subjects, where students, in case if they are interested in some of the subjects of commerce or arts, they are not supposed to be touched with. So any discipline can be interrelated, can be correlated according to the choice of the learner. So for this, the curriculum should be formulated where some of the subjects are called as the core subjects, where there is no or no option, but there could be some introduction of some subjects which could be according to the interest, according to the attitudes, inclinations of the learners. So these are certainly the benefits, the beneficial effects of NEP. Maybe we may not find these benefits, researched and seen just tomorrow or maybe in a year. But after a constant survey done, we'll definitely can see the beneficial effects, the benefits, the beneficiary effects of NEP 2020. Now, which are the 5 guiding pillars? The first one is access, which means the educational opportunities should be given irrespective to caste, creed, to the geographical situation from where the students are coming from, to the language which they are speaking, to the religion which they are following, irrespective to all these, irrespective even to gender, where access is easily available, right from the slum areas or maybe the rural areas, urban areas, the tribal areas, where there's a lot of equity irrespective to religion, caste, language. And of course, there should be quality in education, which you can say an amalgamation of theory, practical, as well as the skilling component. And of course, affordability. It is always said that when technology is incorporated in the educational practices, eventually the cost or maybe the fees and all, it goes on increasing. So that shouldn't be the point, where there are many schemes which are run by the government to see that the educational practices are affordable for everyone. And the last pillar, not the least, you can say accountability. So it is always said that success has got many fathers. Whenever there is unsuccessful event, happens to be an orphan. So whether it is successful practice or whether if something goes wrong and one gets a learning lesson from what has gone wrong, the person should be strongly standing there, accountable to accept whether it is a successful situation or a challenging situation. So accountability happens to be a very important part. So who are accountable? Everyone from the educational umbrella, maybe teaching, non-teaching, admin staff, and also the students. So we are referring to the higher educational students who should be accountable for their own successes, or maybe if there are any challenges, they can be taught as a stepping stone for improvement in the next cycle. So these are certainly the 5 guiding pillars. Now, we actually go and discuss about the NEP 2020. NEP 2020 is broadly classified into 4 parts. Which are those? First, they gave in focus onto the education, schooling education. Secondly, eventually, when school education was dealt with, it was, of course, the higher education. Third, a lot of importance onto the other areas of focus, which we will be discussing a few minutes henceforth. And lastly, a very important part of how one can make this happen. So it shouldn't be that the policies of quality, we talked about the principles, the guiding forces, all, but it shouldn't remain into the files, but it should be implemented not only in our area, but throughout the nation, where one can fetch in the benefits. So these are the 4 major parts and some important aspects also before I go on discussing these more major parts. So it is a new system which is aligned with the aspirational goals of 21st century education, which includes SDG 4, which I'll be discussing the next slide. And apart from the cognitive capacities, which means elevation of knowledge, even though if it is a small 3 months course or maybe a huge 3-year course, there should be certain elevation of knowledge. That is, the knowledge capacity should be increased. With that, the second point is the foundational capacities. What are foundational capacities? So you can take into consideration whenever learning concepts are given, the students should be able to solve the problem, think critically, have the judgmental capacity, which are totally in alignment with the higher order thinking skills. So it is just not, understanding the concept and applying into daily life experience, but it goes beyond that, which means critical thinking, problem solving capacity. So the example which I gave right in the beginning about the car being punctured and how you mend a punctured tire. So there is a procedure which the teacher has taught in very rightfully, very aptly, with the help of technology. But when it comes to critical thinking, problem solving, you can just put in a statement there that the car is into a desert area where there is no water. So that is the foundational capacities, an example of that. And with that, you have to see that according to the national educational policy, it is the having the capacities of socio-ethical or emotional capacities. So it is ever said that a person who is intelligent may be standing first in mathematics or languages, supposed to be very intelligent. But what about their emotional capacities? If they are very harsh towards the nature, not good people who are behaving in a proper manner in the society, in the community, definitely they are not supposed to be very good citizens of our country, where the social, ethical, and emotional capacities are at the downfall. So according to the NEP, three important stages which they have enumerated, they have highlighted is the cognitive capacity, foundational capacity, and socio-ethical capacity. So what exactly is the SDG4? Now, according to the UNESCO, it is to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education to promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Certainly, all the words are, giving a lot of meaning, adding to the quality of NEP 2020. So it is ensuring inclusive and equitable quality education. Inclusive, which means irrespective to the person, maybe a physically challenged person, mentally challenged person, or even a gifted child. So including all, irrespective to their probable, you can say lacunas. Further, it should be equitable. That is, everyone under the umbrella of education should be brought under an equal platform. Quality, of course, is very important point. And definitely, it doesn't mean that whenever education is there, it stops maybe after graduation. But education supposed to be starting from the womb and ends to the tomb. It's always said that lifelong learning opportunities, and that too for all, which is reflecting to equitability, quality education. So these are the SDG 4 components which are included in our NEP 2020 policy. Certainly now we'll discuss about the 4 parts in brief. The first one is the schooling education. As here you can see the diagram. Another very important diagram, which is excluded the pattern which is quite into our mind about 10+2 structure in the school education, which has now been modified by the NEP 2020. As you can see, the base of the diagram here is certainly there was nothing. It's abruptly started at the age of 6. That is when the child is put into a school, maybe in standard 1. But now, according to this policy, you can see that the first 3 years are given a lot of importance. Maybe they might be called as Anganwadis or Balwadis, the pre-primary ages of education. Then it is also comprising standard 1 and 2, which are the foundational stages, which are further related to the preparatory stages from standard 3 and 5, as everyone can recall that till standard 3, the 3 R's should be prominently seen in the minds of students. Reading, writing, arithmetic. So if these are achieved, you can say that after this NEP is being implemented, in a gap of say 7 years, you will find that 100% literacy rate would be touched with. That was the golden figure which we had dreamt, all educationalists have dreamt. Because in our country, maybe in some parts of the country, maybe in the south, you can see that some of the stages have reached 100% of literacy rate. But what about the other stages? Well, we are struggling hard. The people are not able to read simple arithmetics. So that can be achieved by the age, by the class when the children reach up to third standard. Then following the middle 6 to 8 classes with the age of 11 to 14, with the secondary stage till 18, that is till the adolescent stage. So this is the new pedagogical and curricular structure which emphasizes on each stage one by one, emphasizing on all the points which we discussed up till now: equity in education. With that, we also discussed about some points like ensuring lifelong education, quality education, inclusive education. So all these points are touched into all these 4 levels of curricular structure. So that is what is seen: a strong base of early childhood care and education, ECCE, right from the age of 3, where the child is put into a nursery or a pre-primary school, which aimed at promoting better overall learning, development, and well-being. When we say overall development and well-being, it doesn't mean only academic success, but it also reflects to social development, to moral development, to psychological development, as well as with the academic development. So that was the basic focus here. And these are the 8 points which are highlighted over to the school education. We start with the first is ECCE, that is according to the NCP CCE, that is the National Curricular and Pedagogical Framework of Early Childhood Care and Education. The children up till 8 will be, that is up till the age of 8 years, will be developed by the NCERT, National Curriculum Education Research Training, National Council Education Research Training, which is divided into 2 parts: the pre-nursery part from 0 to 3 years and from 3 to 8 years. So roughly from the nursery standards to standard 2, the frame formulated, which gives in a lot of importance of art, stories, poetry, games, songs, that is through which the education would be imparted. So it is not just the education, but education will be imparted through entertainment. And that is how a lot of importance onto edu entertainment. We can say gamification packages, where through games, through dance, drama, poetry, songs, stories, the different concepts will be taught. So that's the first point, followed by the second point of foundational literacy and numeracy, which reflects to reading, writing, and understanding numbers, which should be not in a druggery manner. When it comes to mathematics, it was supposed to be the most boring subject for all the students, but enjoyable and inspirational books for all. And this was sorted off of having a rich school library, which could be also supplemented by the public library, funded again by the government, and a lot of importance with technology even in the library field, like digital libraries are nowadays established, where the books can be accessed by the students in the soft copy format. And with that, it gave a lot of importance onto the inculcation of Indian languages. As you can see, one of the languages which was totally onto the verge of we forgetting it, which can that language be? The Bodo. I hope everyone remembers this. In case not, you can just have a Google with it. So one of the Indian languages which was made alive. Certainly this can be the literacy part and numeracy part, which is brought into focus. And the third part is curtailing the top-down rates. it is always seen that right in the early parts of the academic year, maybe June, July, the students come to the class, but after that, there's a huge decline, or they tend to leave the schools also. So, with a lot of initiative, the SSA, that is the Sarva Shikshan Abhiyan, was started. Now it is called as the Samagra Shiksha, with a lot of importance to Right to Education Act, that everyone should be made compulsorily available in the school, especially the children between 6 to 14 years. With that, the curriculum and the pedagogy of the school should be holistic, integrated, enjoyable, and engaging. It should not be a piece part meal, but integrated throughout, which means holistic development, which is integrated together with all the other fields of education. Okay, so one can also, like for example, if we take in the 3 core subjects, which were taught in piecemeal parts, but now they are integrated with each other. You can have in the teachers, or maybe the admin projects done on, where a particular topic is being taught with all the 3 core subjects. Which are the 3 core subjects? Languages as such, followed by mathematics and general science subjects. So putting together, incorporating all for teaching particular concepts, one particular concept. It should be enjoyable, equipped with gamification, with a lot of technology, which is enjoyable and engaging. Everyone should be allowed to take in parts and activities rather than just lecturing or the chalk and talk method, which was prevalent up till now. So further on to the line, certainly the teachers, we cannot forget, because it is the educational policy. So here a new course being started with a 4-year integrated B.Ed program. After 12th, a 4-year professional course, as we can see for engineering or even the medical courses or maybe the paramedical courses. The B.Ed courses also happen to be the professional courses, where 4-year integrated B.Ed programs are started. So it could be either the B.Ed or the BSc B.Ed programs, which are nowadays being started. They have been slowly implemented throughout, which give job opportunities for the local students.
Uttara ma'am, I think just she lost her net connection. Please bear with her. Please wait for 5 minutes. She is joining in a minute.
Yes, so I'm very much sorry about the inconvenience which we faced just now. But I hope I'm audible as well as my video being seen. So certainly we were onto the TET, that is teacher eligibility tests, which are nowadays.
Unmute है
Video. Yes, so the teacher eligibility tests, which are now being strengthened up. And the person who have just passed the BA doesn't mean that the person will be eligible for teaching in schools, colleges, but the person has to crack in or maybe challenge in the teacher eligibility test, that is the TET. And in today's world, a lot of importance onto the CPD, that is continuous professional development. So if we peep into the curriculum of any universities or educational institution, we'll find that there's a lot of importance in today's world given onto refresher courses, or it can also be the induction programs which are seen, where a new person who has come into the organization is being introduced to the new environment which he or she will be working in. All these two training programs, either the induction or even the refresher courses, are towards continuous professional development, self-improvement, and definitely to learn the latest innovations and advantages. So they can be various courses, like some of them may be related to preserving our environment, or they can be related to how one can use in technology in teaching, or maybe in the admin practices. With that, another vertical which is seen here is the equitable and inclusive education, that is learning for all, which is with focus of gender identities, particularly males, and nowadays also transgender individuals also incorporated in our educational policy. It is also the socio-cultural identities such as STs or scheduled tribes, OBCs, and other minorities. It also focuses onto the geographical identities, that is students coming from the rural areas, small towns, or even the district places, with a lot of focus onto disabilities like learning disabilities. It can also be physical or even the mental disabilities. A lot of importance here given onto remedial teaching programs even, and a lot of importance given onto the socio-economic conditions, like students coming of migrant communities, lower income households, or vulnerable situations, like children who are indulged into vulnerable situations like crime, etc., with victims of children, victims of trafficking, child beggars in urban as well as in the rural areas. Everything related to socio-economic conditions. With that, a lot of importance further onto the note is the standard settings and accreditation of schools, which is overall only and only striving for excellence. So in higher education, definitely there are those stars or grades which every colleges gets in. But now it is also entered in schools where the teachers will trust and enable them to strive in for excellence and given opportunities to perform the best. With that, now we move on to the second part. That is, we finished with the first part, the schooling education. And the second part is related to higher education, which is having about 6 points or so, and a few more also, which we'll try and briefly discuss. The first one is quality universities and colleges. So developing holistic individuals is essential, whereas what we discussed, skills and values should be incorporated. So earlier what used to happen that whenever any person gets in a degree or maybe a diploma degree or a graduate degree, where knowledge was incorporated, but now it has essentially also focused onto the skilling part, the to-do activities, the hands-on activities, and with that, there should be a positive behavioral change, which is definitely related to the value system which we see. So three important parts, apart from knowledge, it should be skilling and values, which should be incorporated in each stage of learning, right starting from the pre-primary stages to the higher education stages. Lot of importance onto multidisciplinary universities and colleges, where you can see that the credit systems are available, multiple entry, multiple exits, which could be made possible. And a higher educational institution across India will offer medium of instruction and programs in their own local Indian languages. So now it is also possible to take in medical education right in the mother tongue. There are provisions which are taken because earlier engineering or maybe other professional courses were supposed to be only and only in English language. But now with the help of the new policy, the medium of instruction can be tweaked in. It lot of importance is now given to the local Indian languages. With that, a lot of importance onto multidisciplinary approach, where combining or involving several academic disciplines together is commonly seen, or it could be commonly seen henceforth. So a person who is taking in medical education can also opt in for music, dance, drama, or can also opt in certain courses which are related to education, sociology. So this could ever be possible by making one's own educational program, which is fitting into the interest and inclination of the students. Certainly onto this line, it is the holistic multidisciplinary education, which integrates STEM. What is the meaning of STEM here? It means a total amalgamation and total correlation with science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. STEM, which is a total good combination of humanities and arts with science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So this could be ever be possible with the holistic development. What does one mean with holistic development? It certainly just not confises or, having a boundary line only onto intellectual development, but with that aesthetic development, social development, physical, emotional development, as well as the moral development. So one can say that holistic and multidisciplinary education would develop all the capacities of a human being. As it is always said that a person doing very well in mathematics or languages or general science doesn't have that aesthetic sense going and hurting the environment, animals, trees around us, or maybe always hurting the fellow colleagues, or having a not so good physical development will certainly not denote as a holistic or multidisciplinary education practice. It will not come under, and therefore you will find various remedial teaching which happen right from the schooling stages till the university stages, where a lot of importance of all these facelets are brought into consideration. So that is holistic and multidisciplinary education. Further, optimum learning environments and support for students is given. For effective learning, an appropriate curriculum, engaging pedagogy, and continuous formative assessment should be taken. And that too with adequate support for students. So how one can make in the adequate student support available? There's a huge question marks here. So that could ever be brought into practice with continuous improving learning practices, always testing the application of knowledge, which means formative evaluation. It doesn't mean that whenever a particular concept is taught, the students or maybe the participants are evaluated right at the end, which means summative evaluation. But in between evaluation practices should be taken where feedbacks are given to the participants to improve on to their journey of education. So tests of application of knowledge with student wellness such as fitness and good health related to physical development, with the psychosocial well-being also, which is related to emotional development, and a proper ethical knowledge also, which is related to value education, related to the ethical development. So all these support services should be given to the students. Maybe it can be the teachers, or in today's world, counselors are also recruited in for supporting the students whenever they are in difficulties. On to this note, a motivated, energizing, and capable facilities and faculty should also be available. So which could be these? Certainly clean drinking water with proper toilets, blackboard facilities. So one shouldn't be taking into consideration blackboards as they are, but they can be the digitalized boards where you can say the plugins are given for teaching the topics through the digital mode, or it could be proper office areas, okay, for the non-teaching staffs, proper ventilated rooms for the non-teaching staff, with proper teaching supplies, which means the teaching aids should be provided in quality and in quantity also. So you cannot imagine a geography teacher teaching the concepts without a map or maybe without a globe. Further, with the help of technology, maybe with the digital teaching aids, to enable the learning happen very comfortably while the teacher teaches with the proper teaching supplies. With that, proper libraries and laboratories should be made available. So whenever we say libraries, we always think about the hard copy books, but we can also, with the reference with NEP 2020, we can refer to the digitalized libraries. The labs were further, up till now were only said to be the physics, chemistry, or biology labs, but they could be language labs also. They could be laboratories of maybe geography or any other subjects which were taught in a very theoretical manner, but those concepts can be taught in practical manner, where a lot of skilling is being enabled here, and where this can ever happen is, okay. And lastly, but when one cannot forget about proper ventilated classes, with proper spaces and campuses provided to the students, which we can say as pleasant classroom spaces and campuses. Further onto the line is transforming the regulatory system of higher education. So earlier the regulatory higher education was too heavy, okay? A little bit which was too much related to official documents and heavier side, with a lot of conflicts among the bodies. Everyone were onto a verge of putting the responsibility onto another regulatory body, which was resulting in lack of accountability. So how this situation was handled by NEP 2020? It was addressed and it was taken into consideration with these 4 verticals. The first one, the HECI, that is the Higher Education Commission of India, will be the one point contact, single point regulator for our education sector. It is the NHERC, that is the National Higher Education Regulatory Council, which comes under the HECI, that is Higher Education Commission of India. The second vertical is the NAC, National Accreditation Council, which is based primarily on to formulating the basic norms, making the procedures public for self-disclosure, having a lot of importance onto good governance, and a lot of importance onto the positive outcomes which are returned back, like the students which are returned back to the society as capable alumni of the society who carry a lot of name and fame with them. The third vertical, HEGC, that is Higher Education Grants Council, which will carry out the funding and financing of higher education, which is going to be presented in a very, very transparent criteria. Wherever there is finance, up till now, frauds were happening. The money which was procured through grants and funds onto particular headings, maybe girls' education, tribals' education, were spent on some different areas. But now, according to the HEGC, it will be a very transparent criteria. And the fourth vertical is the General Education Council, which will frame the expected LOs, learning outcomes for higher educational programs. Learning outcomes will be in alignment with 3 important parts. The first, knowledge elevation. Secondly, the skilling part. And thirdly, a positive behavioral change when the person undergoes the education or maybe a particular educational program. So this was again a very important highlight, and following this is the effective governance and leadership of higher education institution, which is going to enable a culture of excellence and innovation. Lot of importance onto innovative practices with creativity, with research programs, and a common feature for all the world-class institutions globally, including India, has indeed been an extensus on strong self-governance, which will be outstanding and merit-based appointments of institutional leaders. So these institutions, one may not forget about the IITs and the IIMs, particularly related to the HEIs. Even in the private organizations also, it will be a good, a strong self-governance, which is going to be outstanding onto the appointments of institutional leaders. And onto this, we move on to the third part. So we remain with the discussion on to the coming two. So the third part is professional education. Again, a very integral part of the overall higher education system, the professional education. Okay, so it is certainly when we are talking about the master's degree, certainly related to the higher education practices. It should be adult education and the lifelong learning. So even the adults should be, in a very comfortable position to obtain an education, to pursue a livelihood. So it usually happens through adult education programs, also called as the community development programs. Many such community development programs have been implemented throughout our nation. For example, In the coastal areas, you can take here into consideration where certain products are so freely and available, just without any cost, they're available in abundance, in free. But if the shelf life of these freely available naturalistic products, if it is increased, certainly it is going to add into the livelihood of these people who are staying onto the coastal areas, especially the women folks. So the preservatives, maybe jam, pickles, and other things which are taught to this, which come under this umbrella of adult education and lifelong learning. Thirdly, a lot of importance onto Indian languages, art, and cultures. You can take here into consideration the worldly arts which are nowadays seen, the linguistic, the Bodo language. So our customs, our traditions are not just superficial, but they carry a lot of meaning, which are exclusively supplemented with the scientific part of it also. So promotion of Indian languages, arts and culture. It can also be the weaving practices, the food practices, which have been preserved and treasured. And that too with a lot of usage of technology and integration. So it is the NETF, National Education Technology Forum, which created and provided a platform for free exchange of ideas and use of technology, only and only to enhance learning assessment and planning administration. So you'll find technology which is used in the higher education in two areas. First, in teaching, that is academics. Secondly, in the administrative parts of the education institution. And a lot of importance onto online and digital education, which is going to ensure equitable usage of technology. Okay, so the digital campaign, the availability of affordable computing devices, giving a lot of importance onto online and digital education. So this was the third part of the policy: professional education, adult and lifelong learning, promotion of Indian languages, art and culture, followed by proper use of technology and integration. And lastly, one cannot forget about the online and digital education, that is the distance education programs. Then we move on to the fourth part of making it happen. Again, a very important part, because up till now, what we have discussed is what exactly is the policy saying, the theoretical part. But how exactly it has to be implemented, that too very successfully. So achieving successful implementation of this policy demands long-term vision, availability of expertise on a sustained basis, okay? And that too not only onto the national level, but the states should also look into this of how it could be happening, how it could be implemented. Not only the governmental institutions, but also the privatized institutions at individual levels. So to make all this happen, let us discuss these with the three important terminologies, that is CAVE, MHRD, and MOE. So what are these? Certainly, the CAB stands for Central Advisory Board, which will have a much more greater mandate and not only the forum of a widespread consultation and examination of issues which are related to education and cultural development. So this is another advisory board which is given a lot of importance onto consultation. So in case if any institution having problems can take in advisory or consultations, which is related not only to the examination issues, but also to the educational. And another vertical here is the preservance of our cultural practices, of our great rich tradition. This can never be done where the Ministry of Human Resource Development, MHRD, is now redesignated as the MOE, that is the Ministry of Education. So it is very simple. It was earlier called as Ministry of Human Resource Development, but now under the Ministry of Human Resource Development, there is a simple Ministry of Education, MOE. How this could be implemented is a huge question mark, which should be available in front of all of us. So we have now an interactive session. I just request Dr. Sunita to give in the rights for everyone so that it can be an interactive session.
Speakers can unmute themselves.
Yes, Professor Dr. V.B. Gadicha, please.
Yeah, madam, I hope I am audible and visible.
Yes.
Yeah, madam, the question is like in 7th and 8th semester, internship is compulsory and 12 credits are given to it, right?
Yes.
But in remote places, we are struggling to get the companies and absorb the students for internship. And what is happening to do that is that, there are fake internship letters or fake internship offers which are getting uh, too much populated nowadays.
Yes.
So that may be a threat to quality of education or the sort of intent MHRD which has shown that students should go into the industry and learn the concept, but instead of that they go to some coaching center or something like that, and they offer them the letters and they submit it and earn the credits.
Yes.
So how come you address this point?
Now, this very point, the frauds which happen in our education system, they were quite prevalent and they would be prevalent even in the coming years. So, as teachers, as professors, one has to be very careful about this. If a student coming from right from the remotest part of our country, funds are ever possible to give him to complete his internship program, maybe in the industrial areas, in the places where the internship program is available, or one can also rely on to the technology where the person can get in touch with the internet to get in those hands-on training. So collaboration between the industry and the universities offering higher education should be done. So this could ever happen with the first point, as Dr. Gadicha has certainly come up with a very important point. The first pillar of the implementation. So there are many question marks, and the NEP itself has given in 6 pointers for all of us to see and to make sure that this policy is being implemented with a lot of comfortability. So the first point itself is saying implementation of the spirit and intent of the policy in a most critical manner. So come not way if there are many difficulties, like one of them saying that there are fraud practices which are happening. So one has to see in proper amenities, proper facilities given to the students in case if they are coming from the rural areas, then the infrastructure facilities should be given in such a manner for these students where they can stay in the places where internship programs are given, or one can use in internet for making the internship programs happen very comfortably. The second part is to implement the policy initiatives in a very phased manner. All of a sudden, we cannot be touching all the dots which are given by the policy, but it can happen through several steps, a lot of patience required, which are interrelated with each other, and it can be implemented in a very successful manner. So, internship programs, as what Dr. Gadija is saying, are happening at the end of the whole academic program. So within that time span, one can have in a step-by-step progress. Rather giving a whole internship program, say of 6 months, it can be broken down to smaller phases, into smaller compactable parts. So that's the second pillar which we are addressing. The third is the prioritization, which will be important in ensuring optimum sequencing of policy points. Okay, having an hierarchy part, going from simple to complex concepts. But not, just teaching the theoretical concepts in one go throughout all these semesters, and lastly having a huge package of internship which ends the program. But it can be prioritized. It can be given in smaller steps in a particular hierarchical manner, simple to complex, known to unknown, by breaking down the whole internship program into smaller parts with a comprehensiveness of implementation, which will be the key, as this policy is interconnected to holistic development. Okay, it is not a one-piece meal, but it can be, broken down to smaller chunks which are interconnected with each other. Fifth is, since education is the concurrent subject, it will need careful planning, quite at monitoring and collaborative implementation between the states and the center. So you can take into consideration the funds, the grants, right from the financial management to the human resource management. It should be shared and brought into practice in a very comprehensive manner, and timely infusion of recruits, requisite resources, as what we said, human, non-human, it can be the infrastructural resources also, financial resources, right at the state and center level, which would be very crucial and satisfactory for the execution of the policy. So these are the 6 pointers which are given. So come not way, whatever will be the difficulty, as one of you all pointed out, the fraud practices. So this could be ever be addressed to, rather than giving a whole internship program at the end of the whole academic program. It can be broken down to smaller pieces, or it can be made in a very comprehensive manner. Holistic development should be seen in. Okay, guidance and support services should be given, which totally are related to infrastructural facility, the financial facilities, which should be considered to the central and the funding which happens at the central and state levels.
Yeah, actually, we are working on this problem very critically. Madam, what happens, like 50 to 60% people will turn up for the interviews and get the internships. But
Yes,
there are always a 30% range in the class. They doesn't, crack the test and sort of criteria which companies offer for the internship. So
yes,
what we have done, we sort of formed a avenue where we are giving academic internship,
yes,
where 5 to 10 people, will be associated to a professor, and professor will ask them to do some
yes,
literature review and research. And
yeah.
upon the unique contribution and maybe publication in Scopus or SCI, we will
Yeah.
award them the credits. Like,
So it is like grouping and teamwork which is needed. Because earlier, what used to happen at the end of the whole professional program, for example, if you take into consideration the engineering program, so it was only theory, sometimes some subjects had practicals, and at the end of the 4th year, there used to be an internship program. So generally, what will happen to a mind of a student, I just have to complete it and get in my degree. Why not I pay and get in the fraud practices done and implement? So it is not focused on to knowledge elevation. Just a minute. So it was not focused on to knowledge elevation or getting in skills, a proper behavioral change, but it was just in getting the certificate that too within shorter period of time. So the fraud practices I've seen ever. It will not happen that within a day or maybe 6 months, it will all change like a magic stick. But these are the things we as educators can implement. The 4 important pillars, you can say, or the guiding principles one can follow in to see all these fraud practices are eliminated. And 3 important things which are seen in the minds of students. First, knowledge. Second, skilling part, because internships are meant for skilling, which is a one step ahead to the practicals. And thirdly is a good positive behavioral change. Okay. So I request everyone to take a screenshot of this, because this screen carries a lot of importance of what we have discussed, the 4 important points which are already given in the NEP 2020. But a very important part is how it could be implemented. Putting it into practice is it is a very important question, $1 million question. And therefore, the pointers which are there given into the policy itself should be adhered by we as educators to see that the policy is implemented, not in the coming 10 years or maybe not coming in the 5 years or 2 years, but right from tomorrow. That is what should be the aim. So I hope everyone has got this Certainly, I render my sincere gratitude to all of y'all who have taken out time and been attentive for, for the last 1.5 hours or so. And certainly, if there are any points which could be, shared with everyone, you are please welcome to give in your pointers, your opinions. We have got about
Hello.
109 participants.
Uttara ma'am, Chandan here.
Yes.
Ma'am,
Who
can
is
you
that?
please enlighten on cognitive aspect in brief?
Yes. So whenever we are saying cognitive aspect, it is related to our cognition of how we are getting in, perceiving the knowledge.
Okay.
So you all must be knowing that we perceive our knowledge whenever we are conscious through our 5 sensory organs.
Okay.
Okay.
The educational levels are very different. Like there are some students of 5th standard, 10th standard, 12th standard, right? So
Yeah.
learning capacity of that students are somewhat in moderate level. But when if we are going on higher education, so the cognitive aspects are different, right? So how we can analyze it?
We cannot say that at the elementary stages, the cognition is onto the lower side as
Okay.
compared to higher education where the cognition is onto the higher side. We
Okay.
cannot say that.
So it would be same for all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Taking into consideration the knowledge which we are perceiving through our 5 sensory organs, whenever we are conscious, we are
Okay.
perceiving the knowledge.
Okay.
Okay.
Fine.
And that should be very alive, which is
Okay.
when we are saying cognitive development, it is related to the knowledge development.
Okay. Okay.
So there
Fine.
were 3 pointers there onto the slide. If I can go on to the correct slide, there were 3 pointers. The first one is the cognitive level. The second one is related to the functional
Foundation
knowledge.
and third one is social ethical.
Yes. So there should be proper communication skill knowledge, the soft skill knowledge. And lastly, it should be the skilling part.
Okay, fine.
Yes, Neeru.
Very good evening, ma'am. Ma'am, being a member from this teaching fraternity in the last 2 decades, what I have observed is students, when they are transforming from the school-going kids to the college-going, they have lot many aspirations, but unfortunately, the curriculum is unable to fulfill those aspirations. I'll give you a small example. When I talk about students of mass communication, when I talk with this in respect of the fraternities like commerce, the traditional methodology of teaching is still persistent. So NEP, what kind of reform it has brought in the traditional courses so that they can gel up or they can go with pace with the professional courses. I really want to have certain insight onto this because when I look into the traditional courses, they were wonderful. But these days, none of the students are having interest towards sociology, psychology, zoology, geography, ecology, political sciences. So what steps should we take? I need certain insights from you, ma'am.
Can you please elaborate on what you mean by traditional courses?
Ma'am, when I talk about the traditional courses, I'm talking about the basic bachelor program into arts, science, not driven into professional ones.
Yes. So when we are talking about NEP 2020, as what you are saying, the traditional courses, there's a huge numerous, focus which is given by NEP 2020 to enhance the traditional courses, according to you, as what you are saying, bachelor's in arts, or maybe the commerce BCom courses. So here a lot of importance given on to integration of the courses, interdisciplinary part as what we discussed. I gave you all an example. Earlier, medical education was implemented, with a 4-year course. But now the medical students can also opt in for some of the subjects which were earlier totally available for the humanities, as say BA maybe in zoology or BA in say sociology. So in today's world, keeping apart from the core subjects, the student will be able to formulate his or her own journey of education, keeping one's interest and attitudes. So in today's world, for example, if a BA in say English is interested in research area, that person can avail in for a quantitative research subject or maybe a qualitative research subject which goes on in statistics area. So that is the beauty of NEP 2020, where a lot of importance given on interdisciplinary subject is given in. I hope you are getting this. So we can share with the academic credits also. That is also one of the important point which should be taken here into consideration, where the credits are shared, not only within the university, but within the different universities throughout our nation, of course, which are regulated by the UGC, University Grant Commission. So credit transfers would be available. Interdisciplinary education will be the importance which will be given NEP 2020. Okay. So these are the things which can be brought into focus with the traditional courses and with the different subjects which the students can offer in and take in as optional subjects also.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
लॅपटॉपला पण म्यूट करा म्हणजे मग मला बोलता इको होणार.
Yes.
I think laptop.
Madam, may I put a question?
Thank you, Dr. Uttara, for such insightful presentation. As we all knows, NEP is such a long and a huge topic, so it's not possible to cover up about each and every aspect of NEP in 1.5 hours. So Dr. Uttara here tried to give a brief idea about NEP 2020. So as we conclude this, I would like to extend our heartfelt thanks to Dr. Uttara for her enlightening presentation and for sharing her vast knowledge with us today. Your insights have provided us with a deeper understanding of national education policy and its significant impact on our education system. I would like to thank all our participants for their active engagement and thoughtful questions. Your presence made this celebration even more special. Here is one special and small notice to all participants that you will receive the certificate of participations. Those who have attended, because there are many registrations we received, but only doing registration is not going to serve the purpose. The people or participants who attended today's session, we have monitored their attendance. So these are only the eligible participants who will receive certificate in next week. So thank you once again, everyone. We look forward to your participation in future also under this IIC activities. Have a great day ahead. Thank you.